Albin Choi, a Toronto kid, comes into London, the Canadian Amateur Golf Championship, and wipes the floor with the competition. He's at NC State right now, and he's already won 2 tournaments as a freshman. Tell me about this golfer, Brent. You saw him up close and personal. He's amazing.
In that final round, I could not believe it when he just ran off birdie after birdie after birdie. And playing, in the same group as Cam Burke and Eugene Wong, 2 superstars in amateur golf, he pulled away so fast, and these guys were in shock. They could not believe that a guy made birdie after birdie after birdie after birdie and just basically ran away with it.
Golf is just one of those things where once everything just kind of comes together, and he's just gone on a run ever since. And like, because he came from nowhere. I mean, we never heard about this guy until then.
You were shooting highlights at the Hunt Club, and he'd be, what, 140 out, and you'd essentially focus on the cup and the pin, and just keep your camera there, and he'd drop a ball within 3 feet.
2 bounces and stop, and you're like, oh, well, that was exactly what I had hoped he did. It was fantastic.
Albin Choi on my radio show mentioning that Mike Weir was one of his heroes, but he's also a huge fan of the Korean contingent on the LPGA and the PGA Tour. He wants to be a Canadian-Korean representing our country and the motherland, if you will, at some point in the near future. And you know what? I think Canada needs another injection of great players at the highest level. 6 entering the tour in 2011, and within the next 5 years, maybe Albin Choi leads a new charge. It remains to be seen. Albin Choi and what he did in London this past summer, the number 8 story on the countdown. Number 7, Naz to Greg. Nazem Kadri in 2009, Greg Mckegg in 2010. A 3rd round pick of the Toronto Maple Leafs, having a pretty nice season with the Erie Otters right now. Could score 40, but he scores a big one, wearing the blue and white in that annual exhibition game against the Flyers at John Labatt Center. Your impressions of Greg Mckegg, Marek, and if you think at some point he's going to help the Maple Leafs?
Well, I think he's got that big frame, right? So I think in that in the role that he'll play for them was maybe a 2nd line guy, maybe a 3rd line guy even, but he could definitely find his place on there. That goal, though, very reminiscent to what Naz did the year before, wouldn't you say?
Yes, exactly. Coming into the home game essentially, and he went to the net, banged it in. The kind of goals that he has scored as an Erie Otter. He's got hands of gold. The kid is passing the puck as good as anyone in the Ontario Hockey League right now, and he's 2 years away from being a National Hockey Leaguer.
Naz called up to play 1 NHL game at the start of 2010 against the San Jose Sharks. We wonder, with the Leafs offense sputtering pretty much every single night, if Brian Burke might make an emergency call to Erie and have Greg Mckegg join them for a game or two. It would be interesting to see. Number 6, Brett Weir. Weir's year. I think a good spot in the countdown. Brett Weir, we've called him the best high school football player in London, and with good reason. He just racked it up from the quarterback position, and on defense, he was an absolute monster. Need I remind you guys of that playoff game against Clark Road?
Well, he, best player in London, hands down, maybe top 5 in the country right now amongst high school recruits. There's not too many guys who are 6'4" and can run a 4.3 40. He had all the skill of any player we've ever seen in the high school ranks here, and he's got a bright future ahead of him. He was a man amongst boys out on the high school football field this year.
And you know what? Quarterback's not his natural position, and to see what he did with that ball this year, I mean, those passes, one after another, like just 60-yard bombs. I mean, they were incredible.
He has that big U.S. Collegiate Showcase game coming up in South Carolina. Might tell the tale of exactly where he ends up in terms of his post-secondary education and where he plays next. I think he should give it a go in the NCAA. I think he's got that kind of skill, but CIS teams are chomping at the bit and salivating to get their hands on him.